I love you and I want to help you innovate. Let's change the world. Let's change ourselves. Let's do big things. Let's innovate. Let's do new things today that we weren't doing yesterday. And maybe they'll catch on and other people will do them and it will create big change. So let's talk about the keys to innovation. Talk about Edison, talk about Tesla, talk about scientific studies on innovation, talk a little bit about my experience. But first, let's dispel the myth that it's like boom, bing, bing, light bulb, light bulb. The reality of the light bulb is there was 1,000 failed experiments leading up to the big win. So, experimentation is a process that anyone can do. It doesn't require genius, it requires persistence. Innovation is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. I believe Edison said that. So we see that with Edison. Again, he did 1 million experiments, 1,000 patents before the light bulb. Same with Tesla. He tried a lot of things. Most of them didn't work. A few of them did. And the innovator's hypothesis really covers the formula. So let's break it down into a formula and cover some of the key points. So here's really what the key is. An experiment loop is a rep loop, a feedback loop. You do an experiment, which means that you try something new and you get feedback on it, which could be someone telling you, but is ideally objective and measurable. Like you see if your performance is better, and then you revise, you change your approach, and you either stick with what worked or discard it, and you experiment again. So the experiments should be low cost. And the key is that there's no failed experiments because the purpose of the experiment is to learn, right? So you don't actually fail, you just learn, I won't do that again. That didn't work, right? It's worth knowing if something doesn't work, if it was easy to find that out, right? It is, so that's not a failure because you learned. Now, that approach I don't like. I'm not going to do that, right? So it's important, and this is hard to do, is detach from the outcome. It's common for us to be like, oh man, like, oh, I should have done that, or I should have said something else, no! But now instead, if you have the innovator's brain, it's like, now in the future, now I know better, awesome, right? I learned. I got better through failure, right? So, yeah, it's worse than the worst thing that can happen in terms of experiments is running them too long. If something doesn't work, sticking with it too long or committing too early. If you're the type of person that has a hard time committing, that's actually good for innovation. Edison had a hard time committing to anything because he was onto the new thing, trying the new thing. It's not like, oh, you're not sticking with it. You try 1,000 things, you only stick with the one thing that works the best. Market research, right? You don't, or maybe you do, propose from the first date, right? You go on a few dates with your ideas, with your experiments, and if it works real well, then you commit, right? And then you keep experimenting. So, yeah, my own story, if you care. My main thing has been in a card game called Magic the Gathering, and I'm known as an winnovator, an innovator, someone who comes up with crazy new ideas. And some people are like, what's your process? How are you able to do it? How long does it take? It's not magic. You just run through 100 ideas and then use the best couple. Simple. You get a lot of feedback, and this is, you play games, and if you win, you proceed. If you lose, you change your approach or you scrap it, right? But you don't spend money and buy a bunch of cards before you know if it's going to work or not. You could, but that's not a very efficient approach. So that's really what it's about. Innovation, doing something new. We want to change ourselves. We want to change the world. Let's do it. And the key is low-cost experiments, run lots of them. Innovator's hypothesis. If you want a book that breaks it down, how cheap experiments are better than good ideas. This is the key. Run a lot of cheap experiments, get feedback, revise, run more cheap experiments. That's how you innovate. You come up with new things. That's why my videos get better and better. So, love you, thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And let me know what you think in the comments. Oh no, we're losing a page. Let me know what you think in the comments. What are you going to experiment on? What are you innovating on? What areas of your life are you going to experiment on? Tell me in the comments. Peace. Much love.